Vince McMahon has been described as a risk factor by the new WWE owners. We've got an update on an injured AEW star. And will Brock Lesnar and Ronda Rousey return for UFC 300? Stay tuned for the news. Now, it was the TKO SEC filings just recently, and they had a Q3 earnings report. And of course, the topic of Vince McMahon came up. Now, Vince McMahon has been a topic of discussion in the wrestling world for about a year and a bit just now.
And some change. He's always the topic is Vincent Kennedy McMahon.
Ryan, it just seems like things keep happening. And another thing that has just happened is that TKO Holdings Board of Directors has listed him as a risk factor in the recent SEC filings. I'm not surprised they've described him as a risk factor.
Neither am I. So according to the report verbatim, it says his presence could have adverse financial and operational impacts on our business and could expose us to negative publicity and or have other adverse financial and operational impacts on our business. His membership also may result in additional scrutiny or otherwise exacerbate the other risks described herein. Any of these outcomes could directly or indirectly have adverse financial and operational impacts on our business. It is within their best interest to disclose the fact that Vince McMahon, with the litany of incidents and accidents and hints and allegations, is a powder keg for this brand new holding company.
I mean, just in the past few months, we've had the FBI investigating him. There's a big investigation internally into him. We've had so many things just even recently that, it is in their best interest to be like, we're aware of this. We're not turning a blind eye to the fact that Vince McMahon is potentially a risk to this brand new company. They've got shareholders to appease, and the shareholders going, he could do something that might make us lose a lot of money. So them disclosing it just now, especially in the Q3 earning, is very wise from that. But
he has to have like a little sticker at all times.
Yeah, they've got he walks around with a balloon attached to him, so they're always aware of where he is.
They always know where Vince is.
Where is he? Oh, the balloon. Yeah, there we go. But some other takeaways from the Q3 earnings call, as well as the NXT deal with the CW, which we spoke about earlier on today, which I found out since is the return to the CW network after Saturday Morning Slam.
Yes!
Which you've done a video about all the forgotten fourth brand.
The forgotten fourth brand
Saturday
of
Morning
WWE.
Slam.
It was the Saturday morning version of the wrestling show. And do you know what? The video's there. Go find it.
Go and check it out.
What a fun show Saturday Morning Slam was. It had its own general manager. Yep. So it had to be a brand.
And Daniel Bryan talked about bears fighting and on commentary quite a bit. But alongside the CW news, there were numerous potential new homes for Raw being discussed. TKO, though, are not in a rush right now to confirm where Raw is going to go because they want to have some talks with certain companies and make the most amount of money. It's not wise to be like, we're going here.
And also they heard how nervous it makes you, the thought of Raw not being on a Monday.
Not being on a Monday. I don't like it. What will I do on a Tuesday morning? Like, genuinely, can't happen. But they also mentioned on the earnings call, part of the new SmackDown deal, which sees SmackDown move to the USA Network away from Fox, includes WWE specials on primetime NBC, which is the first we've seen since WWF main event in the 80s.
Yeah, I mean, there's some fun to be had with that. I think if you were to, AEW do these to mix results where they have like these network TV specials with Battle of the Belts and stuff like that. And I think WWE having something like that as well could make for some interesting programming.
It's kind of, though, a grey area for WWE. Is it a network special like type of event where it's like, well, it's pay-per-view, but you're not going to get everything? Or is it going to be a pay-per-view? But obviously, but just on network TV, like a special edition of...
I think you kind of put it in the middle there. I think you kind of brand it as like a special event whereby you have a couple of marquee matches that it builds. It's very much like what NXT specials are at the moment, like Halloween Havoc, which had 2 weeks of Halloween Havoc, where you kind of build TV towards that. Not necessarily like, a pay-per-view per se, but some feature matches and you can have a little bit of fun and try new ideas out in that sort of field.
Yeah, that's probably a good spot for it. But they also mentioned big money sponsorships might be on the way. You know, we've got the ring canvas is a canvas that you can fill with lots of advertising, just like we've seen at WrestleMania, where the literal barricade was an advert for Cinnamon Toast Crunch or whatever it was. I feel like we'll see a lot more of them.
Because they don't really put them on the canvas or the map per se.
Yeah.
That might be...
AEW does.
AEW does. And it looks as if that's something that they're exploring more now.
Yeah.
Going into 2024.
And another company that does UFC, which is something that WWE, with now being in the same company with, they're still looking at whole super weekends with WWE and UFC events taking place in the same city. That will bring a lot of tourism, a lot of money. So TKO on their quarter earnings report, Vince is a risk. We're making money. It seems like they're looking forward to all the big opportunities coming their way. And speaking of big opportunities coming in the way of certain stars, there's been some internal praise for a Raw star, hasn't there, Tom?
Oh, hard to go south of heaven when you're Damian Priest. And then this is the name that keeps coming up in terms of somebody that's getting, you know, these well-earned nods backstage. It was back at Backlash this year. He got a lot of plaudits for his match with Bad Bunny, and generally throughout the year in terms of how he stepped up in his role with the Judgment Day. But PW Insider reporting today a lot more praise lately internally for Damian Priest. Over the last several months, he's impressed management by how hard and how physical he has worked, gutting through quite a few times where he's been banged up and kept on going. We reported, say PW Insider, a few months back that he'd been seen as a top-level, upper echelon talent, and since then he's won Money in the Bank and continues to get raves internally. I wouldn't be shocked if, you know, he cashes that in and is successful.
I am surprised he's not cashed it in already.
I thought that may have happened at Crown Jewel.
I thought we were going to get it at Payback. I thought we were going to get it Fastlane. And then obviously we had the big tease, and probably the biggest tease so far at Crown Jewel, where he comes down at the ring, he's got the briefcase, he's got the referee, he hands it to the referee, and then Sami Zayn steals the briefcase.
He got briefcase cockblocked by Sami Zayn.
Exactly. So I feel like I'm glad he's getting the praise. He's been one of the top talents of the past year, and I think should he be the one to beat Rollins? Maybe
I
he
think
is.
so. I don't think you can't go far wrong with Damian Priest. I think making Damian Priest the world champion.
I think it'd be a very, very nice prospect of him as world champ in the Judgment Day. But going over to AEW sort of things just now, we've got an update on an injured AEW star being Kyle O'Reilly. He posted on Instagram that gives a promising update on his neck injury. He's been out of action since, I think it was December last year, maybe even longer than that actually. But he posted on Instagram showing him doing some barbell lunges with the barbell around his neck, and then included the caption, "Getting closer every day, but for now my legs are too sore to move." So it's positive steps for him. Hopefully we'll see him back in the ring soon. I think he has been missed on TV.
Oh, big style. And it feels like the one thing that a few reports have said over the last couple of weeks is that injuries have just blighted the creative process in AEW. There's been some big plans that just had to be halted or you know, taken the scenic route round because of injuries to guys like Adam Cole, guys like Jon Moxley, and, you know, Kyle O'Reilly. You'd have thought by now we would have probably had some sort of Undisputed Era reunion.
Yeah, because we had it at the start. We had the Undisputed Elite. We had all sorts of teases with Cole, Fish, and O'Reilly. Now Fish has left AEW, no longer with the company. Kyle O'Reilly's been out injured for so long. Adam Cole was out injured for so long. Came back, became the hottest act along with MJF, then got injured again. So it seems like we're not going to get an Undisputed Era for a long time in AEW. Obviously.
A disputed era, if you will.
A disputed era. Obviously, they were one of the biggest acts in NXT. And going back to NXT just now, we've got from last night NXT, Mick Foley appeared on the show via video and sort of announced the first two Iron Survivor qualifying matches. Now, who else is going to be involved in this little fun thing on NXT, Tom?
I really like this. So on top of paying for a cameo from Mick Foley to announce the first two, I don't think that's what they did.
Definitely paid for cameo. Cultaholic.com/cameo. You can get the ones from us.
I mean, there is
too.
that. We are on Cameo as well. Come find us. I don't think Mick paid for it. That's being a silly boy. But I like this. They're using WWE Hall of Famers to basically pick their talents who they think should be in the running to be in the Iron Survivor match. So Foley last night picked Fallon Henley and Tiffany Stratton for the women's qualifier, and Dijak and Tyler Bate for the men's. We've got Lita next week. Who's going to be picking hers. And then after that, we'll have Jerry the King Lawler and JBL choosing Iron Survivor qualifiers. And once again, a really simple use of Hall of Famers to establish NXT talent. I really like the way that was. I kind of wish Foley had filmed it landscape rather than portrait. I'm being
just
to
fit the screen properly.
Yeah, I feel like if we could have filmed that nicer, I'd have been all right with it.
Maybe it was a cameo. Maybe that's all it was.
I think it might have been a cameo.
He's like, one take, done. I do agree, though, it is a good way to use Hall of Fame talent and sort of bring some eyes to the product. So if you've gone, Mick Foley was on last night, so I'm going to watch that. Or if you've missed it on catch up, or the same going, Lita's going to be there next week. Is she going to be video? Is she going to be there in person? Who knows? It's an exciting time for NXT. I'm sure the boys on the podcast love NXT just as much as everyone, or I'm sure everyone's now loving NXT as much as the boys on the podcast.
None of the boys on the podcast are here this week, by the way. I know, with the exception of Matthew.
Groundbreaking news.
Yeah, Jack,
what's going on?
So no Jack and Ross this week on the podcast.
What's going to happen then?
I'll give you a little sneaky preview. This week's podcast is Matthew, myself, and Adam Pacitti.
Whoa! Well, unfortunately,
the devil deals the hand this week.
Well, unfortunately, Jack's not going to be on the podcast this week, but you can catch him on Twitch tonight at 6 p.m. Not long after this video, a few hours' time, you'll catch him and Owen playing Football Manager on Twitch, twitch.tv/Cultaholic.
Oh, the Fabes.
You've got something to plug right now, Tom, before we do the final news story. What is it?
What's next for Will Ospreay, one of the most talked about stars on the planet right now? We try and track the flight path of the lesser spotted Ospreay and see where he will land. WWE, TNA, AEW, New Japan, somewhere else. We'll talk about it all at youtube.com/Cultaholic, where you're watching this video right now.
Check that out. But to round off the news today, we've got a little story on Brock Lesnar and Ronda Rousey in the UFC. Now, many have been asking if Brock Lesnar and Ronda Rousey will appear at UFC 300 now that the UFC and WWE, they're under the same banner. They're the same company. Dana White, though, has addressed these rumors and speculation in Sports Illustrated with Justin Barrasso. He says, I get why everybody asks. I love that everybody loves them like that and with so much passion. I do too. But they're definitely not coming back for UFC 300. I'm focused on Madison Square Garden, but no, they're not coming back. If anyone's watching our big UFC fans, I'm sure they will have a mixed opinion on this one because Rousey, has been out of the game for so long. She's now been more linked with WWE the past few years, really since 2017. Brock Lesnar, he has not been active in UFC since 2011, apart from UFC 200, where he faced, and I've got to say, be careful with the way I pronounce his name, Mark Hunt.
Well done.
Where I think it was a tie break after someone tested positive for something.
Let me just check, hang on. We're still monetized.
Still monetized.
I don't. Daddy can eat tonight.
I think Dana White is talking the absolute truth here. I don't think we'll see either of them back in the UFC anytime soon.
I thought maybe an appearance might have been something, just him to go, hello.
Brock has an appearance in the crowd.
Rousey.
I think Brock in the crowd is more likely than Ronda at this point because he's still with WWE, unlike Ronda Rousey. But that is all we've got time for today. Stay tuned to cultaholic.com throughout the day for more wrestling news, and go and check out the other video which we did later on and all the things we plugged in this video. Twitch.tv/Cultaholic at 6 p.m. for Jack and Owen, and check Tom out on the podcast this week. We will see you later.
Lemon curry.